Okay, I guess, yeah, I'll sit over here. Hey guys, so I realized that my previous writing process video was very poetry based, so I am making a prose writing process video, and I'll probably like change the title on that one to reflect that too. And I also got a few questions from you guys on that video, so I will also be answering those in this video. But yeah, let's talk about prose. So I actually have not written much prose, like ever, besides just like essays and stuff, but prose, I find prose to be quite challenging, especially because like it doesn't really allow you as many poetic liberties, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, I feel like prose, like you can't break as many grammar rules without someone being like, what the fuck are you doing, you know? So that's the main problem I have when I write prose. It just like starts to not make sense after a while. But I did write one prose piece last year for my creative writing class that I took in the fall. It was English 9CT with Keith, and for our final project we had to write a prose piece. So I can talk a little bit about how I brainstormed that and like ended up writing it and whatnot. So I guess the biggest thing that I did with that I don't usually do with poetry is I actually started out, so I had like the main character that I wanted to write about in mind already when I started, and then I had these two other like kind of main but not like the main character. They were also like, I also had them in mind too, but yeah, because it was like a first person narrative, I decided from like the main character's point of view, I decided to just like try writing some journal entries from that person's point of view. And I actually liked the journal entries so much that I decided to like format my entire piece based off of them. So while I didn't like use all of the journal entries to their entirety, I did pull some lines out of them that I really liked, and then I like wrote around that, wrote it a bit more like formal prose. I didn't really have much dialogue in it now that I think about it. I had like 2 lines of dialogue in the first little vignette thing. Yeah, I guess I wrote it in like a series of vignettes. But they were all like, so they were all related in some way, but chronologically it was kind of out of order. So it was kind of experimental in that way. And I got some feedback that said it was like kind of confusing in that way, but I don't know. I guess since I like poetry so much, my prose tends to be pretty short and punchy also. Like, I try to, that's the thing. Okay, the thing I've realized is that my poetry tends to be long-winded, but my prose tends to be short. So I guess I'm basically, whenever I'm writing poetry, I'm just writing prose in lines, and when I'm writing prose, I'm just writing poetry in prose form, if that makes sense. Maybe I just really like that hybrid overlap space. I don't really know, but that is definitely a thing I've noticed. So yeah, I started out writing journal entries from the perspective of the main character. I also tried giving all the characters little like weird details that made them seem more like realistic, and I don't know, I just tried so hard not to like make everyone a stereotype, because I hate stereotypes so much. Sometimes they're not wrong, but I still tend to like not focus on those parts, you know? What else? So okay, so when I wrote the whole piece, The one part that I had a problem with was the ending. I really hated the ending, but I just didn't know what to do with it, so I just submitted it as my draft anyway. And like, so at Stanford, our creative writing classes, I mean, it's probably like pretty similar to most creative writing classes, but we do like workshops, so everyone in the class gets a copy and they read it and then they tell you what they think. And usually, I don't know what it's called, I think it's called like a silent workshop, where the person who wrote it is not allowed to say anything until the very end. So yeah, that's like what we did. Everyone was very confused by the ending, and I was like, yeah, I know, I didn't really know how to phrase it, so I kind of just left it for a couple months until spring quarter, where I revisited it briefly, and I like rewrote the ending, but it still wasn't that good, so that's why I've been like holding on to it for now and not really submitting it anywhere, because I just hate the ending so much and I don't really know what to do with it. So if you have any tips on how to improve my endings, for sure let me know. But yeah, so that, I guess this is just trying to explain that the creative writing process is by no means easy, nor is it short or straightforward. Straightforward, that's the word I was looking for. It is, there are so many ways to go about writing something, and you will probably arrive at like a similar destination, but like it's really a personal preference thing. And like I've never written journal entries for a prose piece before, even if I like don't really write prose, right? But this time it worked, right? So there's like, even for the same person, there can be so many different ways to go about writing something. So yeah, that's what I've found so far. The lighting is just moving up and up. But yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the questions that I got. Can you actually write when you don't feel inspired? Okay, so I personally cannot write anything well when I'm uninspired, I think. I'll still write, I just won't like it as much. So yeah, not being inspired should not stop you from writing, but because I guess like there's that whole theory about like how you have to write the bad stuff to get it out of your system so that when the inspiration hits, you can write good stuff. I guess, yeah, it makes sense. I think that makes sense. But yeah, from my observation, like the things that I've written when I'm inspired have always been better than the things I've written when I'm uninspired. Yeah, okay. Next, how do you find topics to write about? So yeah, I think I covered this a little bit in my poetry video, but basically, I don't really think about topics before I write, or at least like if I do, it doesn't come out as good as I want it to be. I usually just like, the best writing of mine that I've written is like writing that, like if there's something inside me that has been like very emotionally taxing, or like has been like eating away at my soul, like that usually tends to be something that I have much more to say about, and it comes out very honestly. So that's usually the stuff that I write about that turns out good, in my opinion. Is there a way to not sound like you're talking in your writing? Okay, I personally don't find any problem with sounding like you're talking in your writing, because I feel like a lot of times when you write, it sounds very unnatural when you try to make it something that it's not. So I personally do write a lot like I talk, especially in dialogue. Like, for it to sound natural, it actually should sound the way you talk. When it comes to like descriptions and stuff, I guess there's like everyone has their own style, I think, and my style, I guess, yeah, it doesn't really sound like how I talk, but it definitely takes some of that, if that makes sense. Like, there are things in like my dialect that like I insert into my descriptions and stuff. I personally think it makes it sound more honest and truthful. So I don't really have a problem with that. But yeah, I think like the more you write, the more you develop a style of writing. So that's how it'll start to differentiate from the way you talk more and more, I guess. What do you think is important in having a good style? A good style, I don't think there's like a good style versus a bad style. There's just a style that's unique to you. I feel like a bad style would be if you're like blatantly copying someone else's style, then I would consider that a pretty bad style, because it's like, well, this isn't really you, you know, it's just, right? So yeah, I think what makes a good style is just having it be authentically you. And I think that's all you can do with that. I don't know, I feel like I'm like spouting philosophy here when I'm like not at all qualified to, but okay. In your Stanford essays, did you sound weird on purpose, or is that just generally how you write? Okay, so that is definitely generally how I write, unless I'm trying not to be weird. Then I'll try to like be less weird, but naturally how I write is pretty weird. So like for other essays, I like distinctly tried not to be weird, and then it wouldn't sound as weird, but it's also not how I normally write, I guess. So for my Stanford essays, I definitely like just wrote how I usually write. The only difference there was that I did not try not to be weird. Yeah. But yeah, even like, I remember in 8th grade, that's when I started like really developing a voice in my writing, and my writing was so crazy back then. Oh my god, it was like, I don't know, I feel like I definitely like just took my brain out and like plopped it onto a piece of paper. That's how it felt, at least. Like, my brain is so strange sometimes that it just like, I don't know, I can't imagine what my 8th grade English teacher must have thought when she read my stuff. I think she quite liked it. I quite liked her, so that worked out perfectly, but like in hindsight, I'm just like, what the heck? Okay, and then, okay, last question. Do you have any advice on being funny in your essays? So there were definitely jokes that I wrote in that were not funny, and I knew that they weren't that funny at first, but I like didn't know if I should keep it in there or not. So the way that I judged whether it was worth keeping or not was I had a few friends read my essays, so they would be like, I don't know about this one. Oh, this one's nice. Like, they would judge for me whether or not a joke would land or not. Yeah, that's really the main way I like saw if my jokes were actually funny or not in my essays. Of course it totally depends on who reads your essays, so there's no guarantee that like they'll find them funny, but I still do think if you genuinely think your joke is funny, and if a few of your friends also think it's funny, I would leave it. I don't think you should be overly serious in your essays, because, I don't know, personally, because I like writing in jokes. I think it's super boring when an essay is 100% serious, so that's just what I did. Okay, I think I've been talking enough now. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you guys want me to cover any other topics in creative writing, let me know. If you guys want me to share my writing, let me know. I am thinking about sharing a poem I wrote about my hometown. This I wrote at the end of senior year. I don't know if I mentioned this in my other video, but yeah, I should definitely share that, because I have not shared it anywhere yet. Okay. Good chat. All right,